There is one direction in space you will never see with your own eyes. Not tonight, not next year, not once in your entire life. It runs straight through the center of the sun and out the other side, into a slice of the solar system that has been hidden from human view since the first creature on Earth ever looked up. The sun keeps a blind spot, a wall of fire 93 million miles away that you can never see around. And for 2,500 years, people have asked the same question about what's on the far side of it. Is something hiding back there? It sounds like a question for a late-night radio show. It isn't. It's one of the oldest serious problems in astronomy, and the strange part is how recently we actually answered it. Not in ancient Greece, not in the golden age of telescopes. We closed this particular blind spot inside the last 20 years with two spacecraft most people have never heard of, and one of them paid for the answer with its life. The thing we found back there turned out to be stranger and quieter than the legend that started it all. So let's go to the one place in the solar system you were never meant to look. Start with the problem itself, because it's far more real than it sounds. Right now, the sun is blocking a cone of sky directly behind it. Anything sitting inside that cone is invisible to you. The sun is about 865,000 miles across, more than 100 times wider than Earth, and it sits there like a floodlight the size of a small star. Because that's exactly what it is. You cannot look at it. You cannot look near it. Your eye shuts down before you get close, and any camera that tries gets washed out into a white smear. Behind that glare, in its shadow, there's a region we are simply cut off from. Now here's what most people get wrong. They assume the sun's blind spot stays in one place, so we could just wait a while and check it later. But Earth doesn't sit still. We're whipping around the sun at about 67,000 miles an hour, completing a full lap every year. So the patch of sky hidden behind the sun is always sliding. Over 12 months, our line of sight sweeps all the way around it. Almost everything that's briefly hidden in January is in plain view by July. The blind spot moves, and the universe can't hide in a moving shadow. Almost everything. That one word is doing a lot of work, and we'll come back to it. You've actually run into this blind spot before, even if you never noticed. Every couple of years, NASA loses contact with its robots on Mars. Not because anything breaks, because Mars swings around to the far side of the sun, into that blind cone, and the sun's radio roar drowns out the signal completely. Engineers call it solar conjunction. They see it coming weeks out, they stop sending commands, and for about 2 weeks the rovers go silent on purpose. The most advanced machines we've ever built, sitting on another planet, gagged by a wall of fire 93 million miles wide. The blind spot isn't poetry. We smack into it every 26 months like clockwork. The ancient Greeks got here first, and they got here for a beautiful reason. A philosopher named Philolaus, a follower of Pythagoras living around 2,400 years ago, built one of the first models of the heavens that didn't put Earth in the middle. He imagined everything orbiting a great central fire. And in his model, there was an extra world. A planet we could never see, orbiting on the exact opposite side of that fire from us, always blocked, always behind. He called it the Antichthon, the counter-Earth, a twin to our own world, locked forever in the one position where we'd never catch it. He was wrong. The central fire wasn't real, and the geometry fell apart under scrutiny. But the idea was too good to die. A hidden twin world, a mirror Earth on the far side of the sun, moving in perfect lockstep with us, so the sun always stood between. It outlived the Greeks. It outlived the telescope. It crawled all the way into the modern age, where movies put a duplicate Earth back there, and late-night radio hosts swore a hidden planet was creeping toward us in the sun's glare. And the reason it refused to die is simple. For almost the entire span of human history, the honest scientific answer to could there be another world hiding behind the sun was not no. It was we can't prove there isn't. Think about how unsettling that is. For nearly all of our existence as a species, we could not rule out a second Earth. So if anything could hide back there permanently, where exactly would it sit? There's one answer, and this is where the story stops being myth and becomes hard physics. Picture the Sun and the Earth as two weights pulling on everything around them. In a setup like that, there are a handful of special spots where their gravity balances out, and we call them Lagrange points. They're real. We park spacecraft at some of them right now. One of these points sits directly across the solar system from us, on the far side of the Sun, in the same orbit, moving at the same speed. It's called L3. And L3 is the one place in the entire solar system where Philolaus's counter-Earth could theoretically live. Same orbit as Earth, always opposite, always behind the Sun, no matter the month. The one shadow that doesn't sweep around. The one address where a twin world could genuinely hide. For a long time, that kept the dream breathing. The geometry actually works. There is a hiding place. The trouble is that the hiding place is a trap, and it can't hold anything down. L3 is what physicists call an unstable equilibrium. Picture trying to balance a marble on top of a basketball. There's exactly one point where it sits perfectly still, but the faintest breath sends it rolling off, and it never comes back. That's L3. A planet placed there wouldn't stay put. The smallest nudge would set it drifting, and there is no shortage of nudges in this neighborhood. Venus comes swinging by. Jupiter, the giant, drags its enormous gravity through the region every few years, like a truck passing a parked bicycle. Any world trying to hide at L3 would get tugged out of position within a few thousand years, which is a blink in the life of the solar system. And the instant it drifted even slightly, the Sun would stop covering it. It would step out from behind the curtain and we'd see it. And that's before the real killer. A planet the size of Earth doesn't just sit there quietly. It has gravity of its own, and gravity does not care whether you can see the object making it. A hidden twin would tug on every planet in the solar system, including ours. It would shift orbits in ways we could measure. We've tracked the motions of the planets for centuries with absurd precision. We predict eclipses thousands of years out and land probes on comets the size of a small town. If there were a second Earth out there pulling on everything, the arithmetic of the solar system simply would not close. It does close. There's no room left for a ghost. So, by the 20th century, scientists were confident the counter-Earth couldn't exist. But confident isn't the same as certain. We had reasoned it away. We still hadn't laid eyes on the place. Now, this is the moment you'd expect me to bring in the most powerful telescope ever built. The James Webb Space Telescope. $7 billion of machine that can see galaxies from the dawn of time. Surely Webb just turned around and checked. It can't. And the reason why is one of my favorite facts in all of modern astronomy. Webb is the most sensitive infrared telescope humanity has ever made, and it is physically incapable of looking anywhere near the Sun. It sits about 1 million miles from Earth, on the night side, the side facing away from the Sun. It carries a sun shield the size of a tennis court, and that shield has to point straight at the Sun at all times to keep the telescope colder than almost anything else in the solar system. Webb's instruments are so heat-sensitive that one stray glance toward the Sun would blind them, maybe forever. So the telescope is built to only ever stare in the opposite direction, away, into the dark. The one machine you'd assume could crack this is the one machine forbidden from even glancing at the question. Webb has never seen behind the Sun, and it never will. The instruments that actually closed the blind spot were far less famous and far more clever. Their names were Stereo A and Stereo B, two nearly identical spacecraft NASA launched together on October 25, 2006. And the whole secret was buried in the name. Stereo. Like stereo vision, the way your two eyes sit a few inches apart and let your brain pull depth out of a flat world. NASA put one craft slightly ahead of Earth in its orbit around the Sun and one slightly behind, and then let physics do the rest. The leading craft, the one they called ahead, pulled farther and farther out in front. The trailing one, behind, fell farther and farther back. Year after year, the two probes spread apart along Earth's orbital path, like two runners on a circular track, slowly opening a gap between them. As they spread, they began to see around the edges of the Sun. Regions Earth had never had a clean angle on. The flanks, the limb, the slivers that are always just out of view from where we stand. And the two probes kept drifting, kept widening the gap, creeping toward the one stretch of sky no telescope on or near Earth had ever observed. By early February of 2011, they made it. The two spacecraft reached opposite sides of the Sun, a full 180 degrees apart. For the first time in the history of our species, we had eyes on the entire Sun at once. All 360 degrees of it, the near side and the far side, the same instant, the same picture. The blind spot, the one Philolaus had wondered about, the one that had hidden behind that wall of fire for the whole run of human civilization, was finally being watched in real time. There was no counter-Earth, no twin world, no hidden planet sitting at L3 in patient lockstep. The far side of the Sun held exactly what the math had promised: empty space and the ordinary churn of a star. A 2,400-year-old question, opened by a Greek philosopher staring at a fire, and shut by two solar-powered robots the size of golf carts. The hiding place was real. It was just empty. But the story of those two probes has a darker second half, and it's the part nobody tells. Run the orbits forward, and you realize the two spacecraft were never going to drift apart forever. They were on a circle. Eventually, they had to swing around the far side and come back toward each other. And on the way, each one would pass directly behind the Sun from Earth's point of view, into that same blind cone that silences the Mars rovers. For weeks at a time, each probe would be on its own, out of contact, cooking in the Sun's static, expected to fly itself and check back in when it came around the other side. To prepare, the team needed to test what would happen if a craft lost contact for a long stretch. So, on October 1st, 2014, they sent Stereo B a command to reset, to simulate going dark and waking itself back up. The reset went wrong. The spacecraft tumbled, lost its lock on the Sun, and with its solar panels no longer aimed at the light, its power began to drain. The last clean signal came in, and then nothing. Stereo B went silent on the far side of the Sun, the exact place it had been built to explore. For almost 2 years, NASA listened. They pointed the giant dishes of the Deep Space Network at the silence and waited. And on August 21st, 2016, a faint signal came back, just for a moment. Stereo B was still out there, spinning, barely alive. The team fought to stabilize it and lost it again within days. The little probe that helped prove there was no twin Earth became its own kind of ghost, drifting around the Sun, no longer answering. Its sister, Stereo A, is still flying today, still sending data home, the surviving half of a pair of eyes that finally let us see all the way around our own star. 20 years later, one of them is still working. One of them is lost in the very blind spot it was sent to map. You might think that closes the case for good. The legend's disproven, the file's shut, everyone goes home. But the search near the Sun never stopped. Because while the giant twin world was a fairy tale, the inner solar system turned out to be hiding plenty of smaller things. And some of them are genuinely strange. For most of the past century, astronomers hunted hard for something they called the volcanoids. The idea was simple. The region between the Sun and Mercury, the hottest, brightest, most hostile real estate in the entire solar system, might be home to a population of small asteroids. Baked, battered, orbiting closer to the Sun than any planet dares. Nobody could see them for the obvious reason. They'd be drowned in the glare, roasting in temperatures that would melt lead like an ice cube on a Phoenix sidewalk in July. Hunting them meant looking right next to the Sun, the one thing you are never supposed to do. So astronomers got inventive. They bolted cameras onto jet fighters and flew them into the upper atmosphere to grab the brief window during twilight. They used spacecraft to peer just off the Sun's edge. They scanned that searing zone again and again for decades. And the confirmed count of volcanoids today stands at exactly 0. Either they were never there, or the Sun's heat and radiation ground them to dust and blew them clean out of the neighborhood long ago. Another ghost, chased into the light and gone. There was an even older ghost before that one, and it fooled some of the smartest people who ever lived. In the 1800s, a brilliant French astronomer named Urbain Le Verrier noticed that Mercury's orbit was doing something it had no business doing. It was drifting, very slightly, in a way Newton's laws of gravity could not explain. Now, Le Verrier had a frightening track record. He had predicted the existence of an entire planet, Neptune, using nothing but math, and then told astronomers exactly where to point their telescopes to find it. They found it. So when he announced there must be an unseen planet tugging on Mercury, hidden inside its orbit in the Sun's blaze, people believed him without hesitation. They even named it Vulcan. Observers spent years convinced they had spotted it crossing the face of the Sun. Vulcan didn't exist. The real answer came from a patent clerk in Switzerland named Albert Einstein. Mercury wasn't being pulled by a hidden planet. It was orbiting through space and time so badly warped by the Sun's gravity that Newton's tidy clockwork broke down right there at the Sun's doorstep. When Einstein's theory of general relativity predicted Mercury's drift exactly, with no hidden planet at all, it didn't just kill Vulcan. It rewrote our entire understanding of gravity. Sometimes, the thing hiding behind the Sun isn't an object at all. It's a crack in how you thought the universe worked. And there is one more thing the Sun has been hiding in plain sight, something we find constantly, every single week. Comets. There's a sun-watching spacecraft called SOHO that has been staring at the Sun without blinking since 1995. And in the process, it has caught more comets than any other instrument in history. More than 5,000 of them. Most are tiny. Most had never been seen before. Many of them belong to a single shattered family, the Kreutz sun grazers, the broken pieces of one enormous comet that came apart near the Sun centuries ago and whose fragments still dive in, one after another, to die in the fire. And here's the part I love. A huge number of those comets weren't discovered by professional astronomers at all. They were found by ordinary volunteers around the world, regular people scanning SOHO's images from their living rooms, spotting a faint smudge creeping toward the Sun before anyone with a degree ever noticed. The Sun is a graveyard for wanderers that drift too close, and a good chunk of the headstones were read first by amateurs on their laptops. So the honest answer to whether something is hiding behind the Sun comes in layers. A second Earth? No. We checked, and the place where it could have lived is empty. A swarm of scorched asteroids inside Mercury's orbit? Almost certainly not, though the Sun may have already destroyed them. A steady rain of doomed comets falling into the inferno? Absolutely, all the time, more than we can count. But the eeriest answer of all has nothing to do with planets, or comets, or any solid thing. When you look toward the sun, you are not just looking at a star. You are looking at the most powerful lens in the solar system. The sun's gravity is so immense that it physically bends the path of any light passing near it. Einstein predicted this too, and in 1919, during a total solar eclipse, an expedition led by Arthur Eddington photographed stars sitting just off the edge of the blacked-out sun. Those stars appeared shoved out of position, their light bent as it skimmed past the sun on its way to us. It was the experiment that made Einstein famous around the world overnight, and it proved something permanent and quietly mind-bending. The light from distant stars and galaxies, the light from objects that truly are directly behind the sun, does not travel in a straight line to reach us. It curves around the sun's gravity, smeared and bent and focused. In a real and measurable sense, the sun is a colossal magnifying glass. And there are objects in the universe whose light reaches Earth only because the sun bent it on the way in. Sit with that for a second. The thing standing between you and the far sky is also the thing that might let you see other worlds more clearly than any telescope ever built. The wall is also a window. The blind spot is also a lens. If you could somehow stand on a platform out past the sun and look back the way the two stereo probes did, here's what you'd see. No twin Earth, no mirror world, no hidden home for a secret civilization. Just our own sun, from an angle no human standing on Earth will ever witness directly. And beyond it, stretching off in every direction, the same ordinary, beautiful, terrifying universe that surrounds us everywhere else. The far side isn't a different place. That was the whole illusion. We imagined the sun was a door to somewhere else, when it was only ever a curtain hung over more of the same. For 2,500 years, that curtain was enough to hold a mystery. People looked at the brightest object in the sky, the one thing they were forbidden to study, and they filled the darkness behind it with a twin world, a hidden planet, a secret we weren't allowed to see. It might be one of the most human things we have ever done. We find the single place we can't look, and we decide something must be waiting there. And then, almost within living memory, we built machines patient enough and clever enough to drift to the far side of a star and look. The answer they sent home wasn't a monster or a twin or a hidden hand. It was emptiness, and physics behaving exactly as predicted, which, depending on how you hold it, is either the most boring possible ending or the most profound one. Because the universe never owed us a secret. It only owed us the truth, and the truth was that there was never anywhere left for the ghost to hide. One of the two probes that proved it is still out there listening. The other is lost in the blind spot forever, which feels like the kind of price the sun would ask. The blind spot is closed now. The hiding place is mapped. The counter-Earth is gone, the way every ghost goes once you finally bring a light into the room. But I'll leave you with the part that stays with me. There are still blind spots out there, bigger ones. Whole regions of our own galaxy buried behind dust and distance, questions we don't yet have a machine clever enough to answer. And somewhere in that dark, we are still doing exactly what Philadelphus did 2,400 years ago. Standing at the edge of what we can see, staring at the wall, quietly wondering what's on the other side. The only difference is that now we know how this story tends to end. We stop wondering, and we go look. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.